I'm talking about this morning going back to my roots. It was around, I think it was October time last year, and I was what I call in a creative funk. Those of you that have ever been in a creative funk, you'll know what I mean about that. Basically, I was just burnt out, I was worn out, I was creating for so many of my clients. I was flying back to back, presenting, doing everything. I had no time, and I couldn't remember the last time I actually picked up a camera and did something just for the fun of it. So I decided that I was going to do a project for me and something fun that didn't mean anything, that ideally I wasn't going to have to show. So I wasn't planning on showing this, but I am now. And I decided to go back to my roots and take some images. Like I hadn't taken photos in about 3 months. I'd done a lot of video work. And then I also thought, you know what, change of scenery will be a good thing. So I would definitely recommend change of scenery, change even kit, even maybe don't even do photography or video, do something else. I just had one caveat. So I was going back to Malta, to where my hometown is, where I'm half Maltese. But I just got my MRI scans back, and they suggested me, the surgeons, that I probably needed an op or I needed some injections. And I decided to put it off. I was like, there's no way, I'll be fine. I will exercise, I'll build up the muscles, or just have to take painkillers. And I'm really an anti painkiller and pill person. I mean, even to February, I gave in this year and had nerve blockers right at the top of my skull and down the bottom of my spine and things like that. So I gave in. And part of the reason why I'm doing this as a recording on my computer right now is because I can't actually physically lift very heavy stuff because I've trapped nerves, really bad pain, and I will have more injections or even go and have an operation. However, it didn't stop me, and it still won't stop me. I'll still power through. The one thing then I did realize is I've got to take less kit. A bit like every woman that goes on a holiday, wherever you go, and you've got 25 pairs of shoes for a week's holiday. I'm like that with kit. So the kit I decided to take was minimal. Um, like even for audio, for example, I just took the memory mic, which is scary for me. I'm a girl that has a whole bag full of audio, and I carry it with me wherever I go. So I know I've got whatever the right mic is, or cables or connectors. And I just thought, do you know what? The memory mic's quite versatile, whereas I can take an interview, I can just record audio, I can record Foley stuff, which might be interesting. I don't actually have a clue what I'm going to film. I'm just going to go and play, so it doesn't really matter. I was lucky enough to get handed a S1H Panasonic, so thank you for that Lumix camera. I didn't take it out of the box for 2 weeks because of fear. I'd always used Canon, and I took it out, had a look at it, and was just like, oh, these buttons are in a weird place. It's like a Nikon. Actually, it's a cross between a Nikon and a Canon, to be fair, the way the buttons are laid out. But once I picked up the courage to actually embrace something new, that's my third point about if you're in a creative funk, go embrace something new, push your comfort zones. And I thought, you know what, now's the best time to do this, because if the image stabilization is as good as people say, if the ISOs are cool, all these other extra, what I call being mirrorless that I wasn't used to, have technology. Like, let me embrace technology, because right now I can't bring all my kit with me. So I took the S1H, I took the 7200, the 24 to 105, and a beautiful 50mm 1.4, and a 14 to 24mm Sigma. So I had a range. I probably still had too many lenses, but I had the range, and that was sufficient for me. I then took something called an MPS 10, which is a backup system, which I will walk through on why I had that and how I used it. And then there was no way that I was going to be able to carry around some big, heavy tripod and go to the places and locations I wanted to. I'm not really a trekker. My last photo looks like I am, but I'm not. I was crapping it, and I thought it was going to fall. And if it wasn't for my cousin, who lives in Malta helping me out, then I probably would have been in a worse way than I am today. So I took a really lightweight tripod. And again, thank you to Benro, who lent me this tripod for the trip. And yes, I couldn't do pans and tilts, but you know what? It didn't matter, because it wasn't about that. It was about, if I needed something stable, I wanted to do a time lapse in camera, whatever it is, I had something stable. But I also wanted to test this camera out. I wanted to have a bit of fun. So one of the things I did really like about this camera was the focus pull and the touch screen. Um, for instance, as I play this clip now, there is no way that I could focus pull from that cloud to the dried up bush. I was slowly embracing the technology. I'm a big techno, like I love tech. But when it came to control and shooting, I wanted everything off. So this again, I'm pushing my comfort zones. I'm giving it a try. It doesn't matter if it doesn't work because it's not a client shoot. I then went back and did something old. So when something old, when you first get your camera, I know I was doing like long exposures. I was looking for that golden hour light. And these are a couple of shots straight out of camera where I just freaking had fun. I was people watching, I was snapping, I was doing long exposures, all stuff that I don't get hired to do, that I would never do normally, but just having fun. And that's when I started to get what I call my mojo back. I was like, oh, I'm getting quite excited. Oh, I actually want to go photograph and film stuff. Next was pushing my boundaries, trying something new. I was in Gozo, which we took a small ferry across. It was getting late, and I was just like, wow, these stars look like they're so close. Like I've never seen stars this clear. It's beautiful. Not the actually terrible situation for astrophotography. There was wind, there was clouds, the Milky Way wasn't in the place it should be, but I didn't care. I was just like, how hard is it to take astrophotography? And any astrophotographers out there, I hold my hat off to you. I would love to come hang out with you and learn a little bit more. This camera had night mode on it, which was very, very cool, although I forgot to use it. And I also forgot to even focus my camera till it got pitch black dark. So again, lessons learned, but it was a giggle. It was fun. There wasn't that pressure of, I need to get this shot for a campaign or anything like that. And I took about 5 shots, I think it was. And here's a couple, my best shots of my first astro. Not the best shots in the world, but do you know what? I had fun. It's something I definitely want to go do. It's actually really peaceful. And I loved it. I loved the waiting around, the peacefulness, and maybe being with some friends. That would be an awesome trip. Low ISOs. So Mdina is the silent city, and it's somewhere where I just love hanging out in Malta because it's eerie, it's very filmic, it's very doco, and just love it. But it's pretty hard to shoot there. It's like candlelit basically. So this shot you see here is shot at 12,800 ISO, 20th of a second. Now 20th of a second, there is no way this is normally in focus for me. Yeah, I'm able to take something at 20th of a second and zoom in more than 100% to see this, and it's in focus. The puddle shot, which I was focusing on, and I've got a video shot of this. The video shot that I'm going to show you the footage at the end, I actually rack focused. I was rack focused, holding this camera with one hand, and yet it was still steady. Next test was like, okay, so stabilization is pretty good. ISO is really good. I shot up to 56,000 ISO, no stresses. And actually it was a beautiful grain. So yes, it's grainy and noisy, but it's organic. It's like real stock kind of film footage. It's not multicolored pixels and just grossness. Next, I was like aliasing. Obviously in a car, like I'm in my cousin's car here. That is bumpy. It's I don't know what it is. It's some kind of Jeep, but it was like I'm holding on for dear life, trying to steady this camera in my hands. So if you have a look at here, it's pretty impressive. Again, it's not like it felt and how it felt in the car. Next was my test is I took a little boat all the way over to Vitarossa. I'm sure I'm not even saying this right now, Maltese. And Malta is supposed to be sunny. We went when it was supposed to be still warm, and it thunderstormed. It had loads of rain. A lot of my final piece of footage you'll see is groggy, grey, crappy. Some of these shots were the only times where you actually got clear day or a little bit of sun. So unfortunately, I got trapped in this little boat. I'm lucky I had the poncho, but at the time when we was doing the crossing, I had to film as much as I could because I didn't know whether I'd ever get this footage again or a chance again. And here's a little behind the scenes once we finally got to the end.
So it's we took a little tiny boat to try and film and test the stabilization of the camera, And this is what's happening. Hold on 1 second. I don't know if you can see, I am under a poncho. And if I lift this up, I'm guessing you might be able to see it's chopping down. And there's a think tank. But I think the camera survived.
Weatherproof? Yeah. I was a little bit worried because there is a fan. There's a big chunk of the camera that is a fan, which is perfect because I was shooting nearly 6K video footage. This whole shoot, unfortunately, you're going to see it in, I don't know, 720 because we're streaming through YouTube or whatever it is. So it's a real shame that we're not there in person, that I could actually play this for you in the full resolution. But yeah, I shot full resolution, 5.9 something. And I thought the camera would start overheating, but I shot some of the stuff I shot before I left and was testing the camera was over now and it didn't overheat. But rain getting in that fan, somehow it was fine. Even the seawater was pretty phenomenal because some of the shots I was holding it just about this much off the sea, but don't tell Panasonic. Another thing that I wanted to do is I would always take a Steadicam, a gimbal, a slider, whatever it is, and I had none of those things. And I was just like, I'm not going to get the same thing. I can't like run across from one side to the other side and try and get a slider shot. So I thought, you know what the heck? Let's try this live cropping. I'm sure it's going to be rubbish. I'm sure I'm not going to like it. Let's see what it's like. And actually, pretty impressive. You'll see the shot in the actual final piece where you can actually go whether you want to go left, right, up, down, across. So it's not just one way. You can change the direction, change the speed. Finally, sound and offloading the footage because we were trying to capture every sunset, every sunrise. We were getting really early, hanging out during the day, having to hang into bars or whatever because just the weather was so crap. Then when we finally had a bit of dry weather, went out and shot. So I was getting home really late, and like these file sizes were incredible. I was using Delkin cards, 64 gig cards, and shooting at nearly 6K video footage was taking up a lot of space. The great thing about the MPS was that I would stick the two cards in at a time. It would back up, it would double check, and then I could stick a hard drive in also, and it would back that hard drive up and double check that, and then I like triple checked it as I did. That was really cool for me. I had everything then in a couple of places. I wasn't stressed out. I could tell I definitely backed up the footage before wiping cards, where the only other time I've done that for a shoot is when I first filmed in 4K and we had hardly any memory cards, and we had a DIT on site and we was like wiping the cards, and it was stressing me out because I never do that. The sound that you're going to hear is lots of Foley audio. One of the biggest worries I had was the Canon that was going to take off at this shot here, and you'll see it in the film. And I was like, right, where do I put the memory mic? Because if I put the memory mic on the floor shakes when the Canon goes off. That's probably not going to be right. So I stuck it on a small amount of foam just to the other side of my think tank and tried not to kick it, obviously. I got lots of sounds like of the water, of puddles. And again, Foley's really made a difference to my filmmaking across the years. So I would definitely suggest that if you want to up the game, have a look at Foley audio. And even like you can record it on a memory mic. It doesn't need to be some super duper amazing mic, but if you do have the mics and you've got the space and you've got a really good back, then carry it all around with you. So the edit was freaking mammoth. Let me tell you that. It's all good shooting very high res, even raw footage, but having a machine that can actually process that stuff and review that stuff was horrific. I ended up having to rebuild an old cheese grater Mac. I don't know if you know what those are, that have got two processors in it. I stuck 64 gig of RAM in there, new dual graphics cards, all kinds of stuff. And that was the last project that I decided I was going to use with Premiere Pro. Because at the time it was crashing. It was crashing and crashing and crashing. It was driving me nuts. And I was halfway through this edit and had to get it finished. And I had a 14-hour doco still to edit. And that's when I finally had enough. Sorry, Adobe, but I quit the whole suite. So when lockdown happened, I went through, and this is something you guys, I'm sure, would do. and have done. If you haven't, then it's worth a try. I went through, and you go to cancel your membership, and they will give you 2 months or 3 months for free. Unfortunately, what they do is retie you into another 12 months contract. And actually, I wasn't using the whole suite. I didn't need the whole suite. I wasn't happy with the editing that I was getting because it was crashing and it wasn't updating. And each update we had, it kind of got worse instead of better. So I decided to quit the whole thing and move to DaVinci Resolve. Now, when I say move to, we've color graded in DaVinci Resolve. No issue. I know loads of other filmmakers that use DaVinci Resolve to color grade. DaVinci Resolve is a full editing suite. Again, lockdown gave me the time to go, now's the time. I have the time. I'm stopping shooting so I can catch up on the backlog and actually learn something new. And I haven't looked back. And I love DaVinci Resolve. And it's a one-time fee if you get the studio, or get this, there's a free version. So depending on what camera you're going to use, you don't even need to purchase the software. It's free. The other thing I started using was Affinity Photo and ON1 to do my raw processing. I don't use Lightroom, Photoshop as much as most people because I'm shooting mainly video a lot of the time. I do shoot some stills. And I do have some goodies. I have some goodies from some of the providers, some of my who I'm ambassadors for, and some great companies. So in my Zoom live Q&A that I'm going to hold any second straight after this session, then come along and see what you need to do to actually win some of this stuff. And it's some kit too. It's good stuff. Thank you. Any questions, again, jump on the live Q&A.